Okay, very good morning. So today we're going to discuss this paper which was shared with you. This is by Richard Hamming. So Richard Hamming was a scientist at Bell Laboratories. So at the time, earlier it used to be called as Bell Laboratories, and later it came to be known as, what was it later? Any idea? Huh? AT&T, right? So AT&T Bell, it became AT&T Bell. It was Bell Laboratories at that time, so that was their initial logo, and later it became AT&T Bell. So this was, so he's between, so he worked in this Los Alamos laboratory. So during that period, what was important there? Sorry? Yeah, World War II, but what happened in Los Alamos during that time? Of course, atomic bomb was there, but not only that, at that time, Los Alamos was a place where attracted the best of the scientists to work on critical problems, including the atomic weapon. So he has spent a large amount of time in Bell Labs. So this, he has worked on numerical analysis, computing. He is actually a computer scientist. So he was supporting the Bell Labs computer systems, right? So he was, we won't call it a sysad to like what we are saying now, but it's a much higher level, because these were times when we don't have the normal computers, right? They were those punch machines and very olden days. So even just getting that done and how to do it, how to do numerical analysis efficiently was itself a great job. So it's not that he was not a famous in terms of his own contribution, but when people come up with problems of how to solve it numerically, so he used to come up with algorithms and things like that. So he was essentially supporting many of these physicists who were working at that time in Los Alamos. So, and he has got this very well known book on numerical methods. Now, the reason I am giving you this prelude is, during the time he worked in Los Alamos, he had a chance to see how various Nobel laureates were working. So he kind of did a research on what makes a good scientist. So he made a study of how they are working, how their personal character traits are, how their working traits, and how they interacted with other people. So that he gave a colloquium back later, after he was retired. He went back, he was an old man, he came back, he was invited to Bell Labs, and then he gave this talk which you are having with you, you and your research. So that talk is his understanding of how great scientists work. Now the reason we have given this to you is to see what are the features or traits of this great scientist and what we can learn from their life and experience. Okay, so that is the reason we are having this small session. All right, so now what we are going to do is do a small workshop kind of activity, right? I am going to pose certain questions, and we are going to come up with answers yourself. So you can discuss with your partner. I want you to discuss with your partner and then come up with a couple of points, right? The first question is, what are the characteristics of good research? So just write, what is good research? So we are trying to be aware of what is good, what is bad, and how to achieve it. And then we will see what answers that he has to say. Okay, so let's quickly have some points. I am just going to write it down. Yeah. Can we have one, please? What? Any one thing that you thought was the most important part of? Sorry? Significance. Innovative. I'll just take from others. So, huh? Productive. Novelty. Yeah.
Solve the basic problems on which further research can be built upon.
Next.
That should be such that future generation could work on that problem for further.
Anybody else? Yeah.
The scope of many more research.
Give.
Scope of many more research.
So yeah. So there's. Okay. Hmm? Okay. So we'll take that for the moment. Now, I want you to uh, write at least one or two great scientists or engineers or whoever is your role model for your work. Okay. It can be your college teacher, your principal, your supervisor, any great known scientist in India, outside India, right? So just write one or two great scientists. Just think about whom you would like to uh, model your career on, your work on, and what distinguishes them that you want to be like them. Okay, maybe one or two. at most. You can discuss among your partners, and because what distinguishes them is something you can discuss. Of course, what the role model for you might be different from the role model for your partner, but at least you can discuss and find out, right, if the words you are choosing for the role model is appropriate. What distinguishes them? Edison. And what distinguishes Edison? The last row there, last but one. Come up. Last but one row there. Yeah, yourself. What's their name? Megha. Okay. What distinguishes her? Systematic. Okay. Next row. Who's that? Avdesh. Okay. Sorry? Focused. Who is this person? Your. Okay. NIT where? Kurukshetra. Yeah. Yes. Next.
ZT Believesky.
How do you spell it?
ZT BIENIAWSKI. For in-depth knowledge in excavation engineering for classification of rocks.
Okay. Sudhir.
Adapting to problems which are prevalent in the society or in the current scenario.
Adapted.
For the earthquake engineering, he has worked a lot after the Fuji earthquake.
Hmm.
That gives a practical importance to the work.
Yeah, but what personality trait in him?
Knowledge and the confidence level in the work what he do.
Yeah. Okay. Anybody else there?
Stephen Hawking.
Yeah. No, just tell one what distinct stands out.
Consistency.
Yeah. Yeah, go ahead. Go ahead. Anybody?
Abdul Kalam. Prolific research for Indian defense.
No, no.
Prolific
About
research for
yeah.
Indian defense.
That is not what they're working on, but about them. Yeah. Yeah.
Thirst for knowledge.
Humility. That's okay.
Albert Einstein.
Yeah, anybody. Hmm.
Motivation.
No, 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 no.
Motivation. Give to motivate for work for young.
No, no. What is about him that you want to become like? Huh? Creative. Tesla.
Completely new way.
No, not teaching. What made what you? I'm not asking what their profession is. What personality trait? All of us are teachers, right? We are not Sarvapalli Radhakrishnan. What personality trait? That's what should help them. Try to figure out. Gautam Poddar. Okay. Risk.
Risk taking.
Okay, I'll just stop here for the moment. Okay. Hmm? Passionate. Okay. Fine. Now, given that
I think one name is missing.
there is nothing missing, there are so many names missing, not one name missing. Okay, I'll take it. Yeah. Yes.
For his curiosity, and I'm not sure that whether he was a physicist, chemist, mathematician, or polymath kind of thing.
Okay. Now, tough question. So, these many of you have identified, even if you have not told, you have identified as your role models. Now, what stops you from becoming like them? What are the obstacles that you see in becoming like them? So, this is personal. I mean, this is not, I am not asking a general question. You have your role model. What stops you from being like them? What are the obstacles? We are trying to identify either systemic, societal, or in your personal level, right? What are those obstacles? You can think about it. I mean, it's not, I don't want an immediate answer. Just take a minute, think about it. What is it that's in you that is stopping? What is it that is in your system where you're working that is stopping, or the society which is stopping, or the scientific community that is stopping? Okay, what are those obstacles? And what you can do about it? if it is within you, you can do something about it, change your habits, do something. If it is in the system, you can ask for the change, because you need to recognize the change. What is the change that is required that stops you from becoming like them? So this session that we are doing is, because of lack of time, we are compressing it in 1 hour. But these are questions that you should seriously meditate on. You are the beginning of your career, and this is the time you kind of lay out where you want to go and how you want to achieve it. Just 3 years here in this NPIU program is just a passing. Don't get this one that it's only 3-year temporary work. Those things are a small thing. You have to lay out a larger goal for yourself. So, and we are just kindling some questions in you, which you can give a detailed thought later on. It'll be helpful if you can at least recognize that these are questions that are important to address. Yeah. So, who was your role model and what?
My role model is Professor Marcel Descartes,
Okay.
eminent surfactant chemist.
Okay. So, what you think are the obstacles that stops you from becoming like Marcel Descartes?
The opportunity, resource.
Opportunity. What kind of opportunity do you want? What can be done about it to get more opportunity? What that you can do or the system can do for you that you can become that, right? So, what do you think can be done to give you more opportunity? Or what you can do to get more opportunity? Position. Okay. So, what stops you from getting those positions?
The infrastructure of our the current scenario, job scenario.
Okay. Fine.
Because because, have the capability to do that type of research. But funding, infrastructure, and opportunity are lagging behind.
Okay. Anybody else? What is it? You are saying that it is lower, it is low. So, what can you do to increase that desire? So, these are some questions that you don't have to answer immediately, but I am just kindling this. Please go and think about it. So, what you can do? Okay, good. So, that's you feel that by associating with people who are doing good research, your desire to do more will increase. Yeah. So, try and see how you can benefit out of that. Anybody else?
Permission for any work, fund and
A permission?
for any work, fund and for the student.
Permission. So, you feel that you have money but you don't have permission. Okay. What can you do about it?
Motivate the student to say
So, what kind of permissions are we talking about?
not given fund.
Okay. Fine.
So by the student, we tell you go and demand. 100 then
Okay, fine. Yeah.
able to prioritize my work.
Okay, unable to prioritize. Okay. What are you?
To be with the person, most of the time to be with the person who is organized and systematic, who was and learn from.
Okay, good. I can suggest you one book that you might want to read. And this one is called Deep Work. It's available in Flipkart and Amazon. Deep Work. Do have a look at it. Yes, anybody else? We'll quickly move on, but yeah.
Sir, courage. Like if I'm working on a problem and it will take like 2 years, and after that, if I'm not able to get the required result, what I was expecting, the courage of that problem.
So you feel that you lack the courage, and what do you think you can do about it?
I think I should give that problem more time.
So
Accept those if accept the thing that if I get negative results.
okay, so at the moment you are not able to take the negative results, but
Yeah,
you
accept
feel
that.
you can spend more time, and then you would probably come over this feeling of negativity. Okay. All right. So there will be, of course, lot more. Lack of time, I will cut short. And so this is like we have kind of formed a basis, right? And what I'm going to go through is what is Richard Hamming's perspective of all these things, right? So we have just formed a idea of what is required. Now we are going to see, and it's already there in the lecture that you have with you, is what Richard Hamming thought, because he had an opportunity to look at these scientists. What were the things that distinguished an absolutely first class research? Not all of us can do first class research, but if you know what first class research is, if you know what the best is, at least you can do some 1% of it, right? But you need to recognize that that is good and this is bad. So we are going to look at it, and again these features of what distinguishes those first class scientists and how we can try to plan our work. Okay. So first is he says about luck and achievement. So great science is not just luck. Okay. Now there is a very famous quote by Louis Pasteur that luck, there is luck, but luck favors a prepared mind. It's a very deep meaning, in the sense that you or there's one more, that if others, Newton said this, if others could think as hard as I could, even they could have got similar results, right? So what he's saying is that there's I being Newton is nothing, is not just lucky, it's just that I spent more time thinking about it. So Hamming also says that there is something possibly happening in the subconscious level, that if you spend a lot of time in your day thinking about the problem, the way your brain is wired, it possibly gets all this random combination of thoughts, and maybe when you get up the next morning you might find an answer to the solution. But if you don't even think about it during the daytime, you are not likely to find a solution. You may, but you may not. So, this something which we don't really understand of neuroscience, that we go by what people have seen. You see researchers who are very deep thinkers, and possibly something happens in the night, their thoughts get mixed up here and there, and they suddenly come up with DNA structure, right? So, it's not that Watson Crick just got up one day and said, okay, it's a helical structure. It's not that. Of course, they tried so much, and one fine morning probably it just struck them, or one of them. So, one of the important traits is the courage to pursue. Like some of you had pointed out, you need the courage to pursue. You need a belief that you can solve important problems. And most of them had a tremendous drive. It's not just belief, right? You need to have that drive. Yes, I need to do this, I need to do that, and I will do it. That kind of continuous, concentrated feeling of feeling to do something has to be there, which comes with hard work. Now, this is again going back to what Louis Pasteur said, prepared mind. So, a prepared mind comes when you gain more knowledge. Okay? When you gain more knowledge, you will have more questions and you will learn more. And then you will try and do something different. You will feel that it is something else is missing. Then you will do more. You will again go take more knowledge. So, kind of you are exhausting many possibilities, like what you exhausting many hypotheses. You are coming up with many, you are reading a lot of literature, coming up with hypotheses, rejecting them, doing some experiments, rejecting them. So, this actually gives the opportunity for you to get that luck. So, luck as such does not come, but it comes through this process of repeated hypothesizing, testing, rejecting, talking to others. So, it just does not come by just doing the routine work, right? You need to have concentrated time, which is one of the things that the book that I told you, Deep Work, says is try to have concentrated time where you don't have any disturbances, completely cut off. It might be a period in a day, okay, or early period in a day, I'm sorry. So, it might be a particular period in the office day, or earlier before you come to office, maybe even before your family gets up, you can spend some solid 2 hours completely undisturbed, or late in the night, whatever it is, or in a particular day of the week. But if you decide on some particular time you are going to concentrate, you have to be very methodical about it, that time cut off. So, that gives you an opportunity to think. Otherwise, we usually get disturbed by some students coming, some official committees meeting. Certain time, if you can just pull out and say that I am not going to interact, just turn off phones, turn off internet, just work. It may be for a good preparing lecture also. It need not be for research, right? But whatever that you want to achieve, but try to get this concentrated work. So, this is another form. So, other great personality trait is that these great scientists knew or are seeking about 10 to 20 important problems. So they know that in this particular area there are these different problems that you need to attack, and they kind of pursue things in a parallel way. But once they find a mode of attack, they just leave everything else and pursue that with that tremendous drive. So it is something that he observed in this great scientist. It's not that they're just working on one problem from day one. No, they're working on multiple, trying to find a line of attack, basically trying to get a good hypothesis to test it out. Now once they find that it is working, they just drop everything and concentrated effort on that. So that again, what does it mean? You're going to spend a lot of time thinking about the same problem, overnight subconscious, next morning possibly you hit upon it. So this is something that many of us can try. Now if you look at the contributions made in the scientific literature, most of that has come during a time the scientist was so-called young, 30, 40, not 60s or 50s. Less than 40 is typically when you see great scientists have produced great work. It's not that people have not produced later, but really path-breaking work has done possibly. Heisenberg, for example, I think he was some 23, 29 or something like that. So does not mean that they become redundant later, but the critical problem solving, that kind of thing, is like in the age group that you are in now. So it is important to recognize it. I'm not saying that each of you will become great Nobel laureates or so on, but there might be some. But forget about being Nobel laureate, that's not the goal. The goal is to do that kind of class work, right? So this time is when you plan to do, and some of the methods that we have told you, this deep work and other things discussed here, are things that will kind of prepare you to work in that mode to achieve these results. So some of them, the scientists have what is known as an ambiguity in their this one, that although they think that I have to pursue this problem, within that they will have a kind of an ambiguity, in the sense that they are not being blinded by their hypothesis, which I said earlier as well, that when you have a hypothesis, don't get infatuated by it. It's very likely to fail. So you need to have some kind of if you believe too much on one thing, you are kind of oblivious to the mistakes in that problem, the mistakes in the assumptions. So on the other hand, too much doubting, the complete opposite of extreme belief. If you're going to doubt a lot, then you will not have way to progress. So some kind of balance is required. These are another unusual observation that he mentions, that highly productive scientists have their office door open, right? Some of them are the other extreme, that they have completely closed doors, okay, that they don't interact with anybody. But he also feels that there needs to be some time interacting with the outside world, not completely. You of course When you are concentrated working, you keep the doors closed, but not always. So doors open is like just a figurative way of saying that you also open to ideas from others. So now there are some personal obstacles that he mentions that many people have is shyness, or I am not able to articulate myself, right? So that might be there again at the beginning of the career, but once you kind of have tasted what success means, that just fades away. You will not have that shyness anymore. So, and working conditions, not necessarily, you can always say that infrastructure is not good, or I have not been given funding, but sometimes again is this observation that people have come up with excellent research in very limited conditions. Okay, you may not pursue the problem which can be solved only with that particular instrument. You try something to do something else, or try to collaborate with somebody else where that defect is taken. So you look at the defects and try to make it an asset. So if you are going to fight the system always, you will be fighting the system most of the time, and you will not have time for your quality research, right? You need to try and work with the system and see where you can make most take advantages of the system, and use collaborations to complement those things, and try and make a best benefit out of, take benefit out of it. Now again, some people will have this feeling that I don't have control on what to work on, but again this is only at the beginning of your research. But as I said, that try to pursue a few areas at the beginning. So initially you will have this inclination to just continue your master's or PhD work, but try and explore new. What will be seen at end of 3 years is how much have you done independently. So when you apply back again, say maybe the same college where you are working is going to open up a permanent position, or you go to better universities in other states, for example. What they will see is not what you have taught and how good you have taught, but how independently you have been in your research. That's very, very important point that is seen by others. Till now, you were under the tutelage of your supervisor in your master's or PhD. This is the first time you're standing on your own shoes completely. You don't have a supervisor, you just have a head of department for your administrative purpose. The first time you're standing on your shoes independently. And what will be seen now is how you have in these 3 years been able to do the best from whatever opportunity that was there. So 3 years is a very short time, and it will take long time to prepare yourself or prepare your courses, but this is the time you can put hard work. You probably are not having a large family now, you're just beginning your career, but this is the time you could request your family that it is very critical that I not be disturbed with many other things, I need more time, and you have to spend something like 18 hours a day, 18 to 20 hours. 20 hours is little stretching, but kind of 18 hours a day is definitely you need to spend on work or work related. So it is, if at this point of time, if you are not doing it, later you may not get even an opportunity to do it. So try to cut down on all unnecessary entertainments and other distractions now, because now is the time when you can you have to show your capability individually. The person, the individual person that you have been or you're going to be is going to be seen in this next 3 years. So try and pursue this goal of trying to show how you can be independent. See what, of course, there's the places where you go is not a good system, they don't have infrastructure, but what can you do about it? How you can use whatever is available. Go to the nearest city, nearest institute, try to talk to them. You can, because you are kind of going to be associated with IIT Bombay, try and identify a faculty here who can help you with some of the experiments that you have in mind. Okay, maybe you can come here during summers, right? Spend couple of weeks doing some experiments. So these are some things that, or of course other institutes nearby, you don't have to come all the way to Bombay for this. Look at other institutes nearby where you can get those facilities, but you have to plan and pursue them now. So at the end of 3 years, you will be seen not how many courses you taught or how many labs you initiated. Of course they will be seen, but they are not going to be seen majorly. So, and people who are just MTechs here, they will you will be seen how you can are you potentially capable of doing PhD, because just MTechs is no longer sufficient for career in teaching. Okay, because they are lacking teachers now, they have allowed MTechs, but ultimately they will not give you promotions beyond a lecturer. That's not good. So if you have taken up teaching, you have to pursue your PhD and take this time, this next 3 years time, to actually pursue some problem. Okay, try and identify some guide and see if you can do an external registration. MTechs, how many MTechs here? Yeah, so try and see if you can do an external registration for a PhD. Do it parallel. At least some groundwork you can do. You don't need to do your significant work now, but if you can do some external registration, join for a PhD, start working parallelly, that's what will be seen as a critical thing. So at the end of 3 years, you should be able to say goodbye to this, go and complete your PhD in couple of years. So normally PhD takes 4 years if you're dedicated. Now you don't have that dedicated time. You have to teach, you have to take your labs, you will not have that time. So 3 years, if you're able to do a good amount of groundwork apart from your teaching and labs, then after 3 years, if you are joined to some PhD program somewhere, by next another 2 to 3 years, you can complete your PhD because you have done a good amount of groundwork. At that time, you will get a concentrated thing. You will be much more mature than a fresh MTech student who is joining here, right? Because when you teach, your concepts become so clear. It's a fact. It's not that I knew everything when I graduated. Absolutely nothing. I was all like you. But when we begin to teach, we start questioning and understanding because people are going to ask questions. So you need to find out yourself. Unless the concept is clear, so that kind of clarity is what you're going to get in this next 3 years. And use it not only in the teaching subjects, but also for your research. So when you come prepared at the end of 3 years, you are much more advanced than a fresh MTech. Okay, a fresh MTech will not have this kind of insights into the subjects that you have been teaching. You will be seeing labs, you are setting up labs. The insights is much more significant in labs compared to theory because you are going to set it up. You are going to teach them how to do. So make use of these opportunities, and at the end of 3 years, you should have definitely registered for PhD somewhere, and then quickly finish off masters, PhD, right? So quickly try to ask questions. If you, again, I am addressing to MTech students because most of you are MTech here. Over the next few years, you are expected to come here to IIT Bombay. So keep talking to people in your area, keep talking to faculty, try to find the important problems in your area. Now, how can you articulate it? Can you make it general? Suppose if instead of solving just one particular problem, if I solve a slightly fundamental problem, will it solve a class of other problems? Right? It takes time. It's not, and this is the time you can spend time in formulating the problem itself, because as you see, you don't have infrastructure, but there's nothing that stops you from reading literature and forming questions. Okay, and we are going to make some efforts to get you access to good libraries. Do you already have access to libraries, good resources there? Yeah. So we'll work with this one, so that you get access to our libraries here, essentially internet based access. So you should be able to study the problems, research it, and at least formulate good questions. Come up with some hypothesis. So whenever you come here, right, you're kind of doing a mental experiment. Right? So that's what is expected in this next couple of years. And try to, of course, when you're teaching, you'll be talking to students, but apart from that, try and make this short seminar talks, like on the subject that you have studied well. Let's say you're doing now, you started your literature survey. When you can come back here in summer and identify a faculty mentor here in your subject area, give them a presentation. Say that this is what I have identified as a lack in the literature, and this is my hypothesis, and this is how the method I'm planning to do. So they'll come up with suggestions, you can go and improve. Again, if time permits, you might spend your summer here doing some experiments, right? So try and see if these possibilities can happen. Or if many of you have joined new in the same college, right? So form a group among yourself. Even if you are from different departments, form a group among yourself. Don't get sucked into the politics of the department. Form a group, and at least among your group, just make presentations. Right? Even if you are slightly different areas, when you present to a general audience, you have to take a different approach when you present to different general audience. So that again will hone your thinking skills. You need to kind of be very clear when you're presenting to you're a civil engineer, you need to present to a mechanical engineer. It may not be on structures, it may be on something different, right? So some sources of failure you want to recognize are you have a lack in your drive, right? And you spend time fighting the system. Okay, as I said, we can't do much about changing the system. Of course, you have to protest if there are severe violations of your work, such as severe ethical violations. You have to protest, but keep in mind that you can do that later as well. Instead, go with the system and get your time out of it, and spend your time thinking about problems, thinking how to solve them and solve them, right? There will be limitations from the system. It's not going to be gone away just like that. In spite of all this funding that is coming, they may not finally give you the funds to work, but you make use of it. Don't just keep fighting the system. Raise the concerns, but have a limited time for it. Spend most of the time in thinking about problems to solve. That's where you will be judged at the end of 3 years. So these are some things which again leads to failure, that you at beginning of a career, when you want to assert that you are right to your colleagues or to your subordinates, that can lead to some misunderstandings and failures. So the other point is about having a self delusion, that you really don't know what you are pursuing. The reason we are asking all these questions is for you to go back and meditate on this and have a clarity on this. If you're going to deceive yourself, that's not going to help. You need to meditate on many of these questions, what you want to do in the next 6 months, 3 years, end of 3 years, where you want to be, right? Long term career, what is it that you want to pursue? So if you have this clarity in mind and meditate, it's a kind of a problem to solve, right? It's a problem. You're going to hypothesize, okay, I'm going to do this. If I do this, I'll get it. So do it. So see it as a problem to be solved. But which means that at all, just to think about what you want to do itself requires a dedicated thinking. Okay. Now, questions such as, is it worth all these things? After all I do, I don't get it. But it's not the outcome that matters, but how you have gone through this struggle of getting it. The process itself is the gauge of your success. That's what will finally give you the happiness. Of course, outcome does, but the process of engaging through this way is much more valuable than just the outcome. Now, in the next few years, as I was saying, be ready for less recreation.
So I have one point.
Yeah.
But the job is based on the outcome.
What is based on outcome?
Job. Any job.
Huh.
Based on the outcome, not in the.
No, but I am talking about a more personal level. You are talking about what will eventually happen. But again, as I said, at a personal level, if you are convinced that you have to work, that happiness is something which is unparalleled. Of course, job, money and all is there, but the process of doing it in an ethical way, in a fair way, even if you don't get it, but if you consistently pursue it, automatically opportunities will come. But you have to see value in what you are doing, the struggle of getting to it. That will always come. That if you just keep that in mind, you will kind of forget how to pursue it. And that happiness of pursuing it, you will have this one, you will have cribs against society, you will have cribs against, you will be trying to fight that and not the satisfaction of doing it happily. I am trying to see in that sense. I am not saying that is not important, but that will come. That is not the most important. The most important is the process of getting there. Yeah, so be ready for less recreation in this next few years, because this is the time you can use. Maybe after 40s and all, you'll be little, you cannot sleep for less than 6 hours, right? You have to sleep for 8 hours after 40s or 50s. But now you can afford to do that. You can cut down your sleep, you can cut down your recreation, and that's not going to harm your health. If you maintain a healthy lifestyle, keep doing some physical outfits, exercises, and healthy food habits, you can do with just 5 to 6 hours of sleep, and use that remaining time to productively use it. Cut down on recreation now. In these, till your 30s or 35s, till you're going to a reasonably permanent career, either in teaching or in research outside, this is the time you have to make use of this, cut down on additional things, and then later you will automatically see the results of this. So the part about doing work with others is a great scientist usually does it single-handedly, typically, great scientists. We may not be that, but great scientists usually achieve many things single-handedly. There are some other kind of people who have a larger vision, not just on one problem, a larger vision. So they kind of go into science management. That again depends on how your vision is and what your capability is. So depending on that, you either become a great individual scientist or a great science manager and this one. So people of those capabilities have a larger vision for the society, for the country, for the discipline and so on. So again, that depends on your personal vision for a problem and your personal capability. Okay, so that will be the end of this one. So please, now that I have given you kind of an abstract of this, go and read about read it once more and meditate a lot on this. So this is the time, take some time to just meditate one day on what you want to do and how you want to achieve it. Okay, thank you.